This is Max from PaperGold and Common Ground Finds, and we are talking to Kate, one of my furthest PaperGold members in Australia. She has sold a signed Hitchcock book, and we are going to talk about that book today. So, Kate, tell us about the signature of Alfred Hitchcock. Tell us about where you found the book. Tell us the story.
Okay. Hey, Max. Thanks for having me today. Good to
Always.
see you. Well, I'm coming to you from the Central Coast, which is about an hour's north of Sydney in Australia. Yeah, so a few months ago, back in May, I sold an Alfred Hitchcock book, which I found at a garage sale, and it was just a local home that I sort of came to piece together that this lady was an eBay seller.
Okay.
But it's just a continuous garage sale. Like she just has it every week and primarily books. But this was the first time that I had seen it. And yeah, I walked into a room full of books on shelves and in boxes on the floor. And she said, I was honest with her. I said, I'm an eBay seller. She said, do you want to buy the whole room? And I said, let me just have a look first.
Let me
And
call
then
Max. Let me call
yeah,
Max.
yeah. Well, I had a quick tour of the room and quickly decided that I wasn't going to take the room full of books. It just wasn't worth it. There was a lot of low end stock, very common things. But I thought I'll just do a little cherry picking. And she couldn't give me a definitive price, but I thought I'll just make a pile and then, I can decide whether her price is good. So I happened to come across this really like tattered book that I could barely read the front cover because it had dust and all this coating on like a plastic cover that had been put over it. And it said Hitchcock and it looked pretty old. So I thought, well, that's a no-brainer because Max, you're always telling us about subject matter. And I thought Hitchcock, you can't go wrong with that. So I had a quick flick through and it was actually a book written by a French filmmaker, Francois Truffaut, and it was an interview with, the whole book is an interview with
A
Hitchcock.
very famous French filmmaker.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it was really interesting. But at the time, obviously, I was under the pump too, and I didn't want to act like it was anything special.
So
So
you already recognized there was a signature inside.
yeah, so as I started to flick through it, I realized that there, in like a black marker, there was an inscription, and then his Hitchcock's signature, and also this self-portrait which I wasn't aware of, but it sort of, the two of them were hand in hand whenever he signed something. But straight away I noticed with the signature that there was a little funny error at the end, like it had actually been scribbled out right at the end. And so I was excited, but I was sort of didn't want to get too excited. So I messaged Max, messaged you, and I did my calculations and thought Max might still be awake. So I had a look back through my messages to you, and it was like, "Hey Max, you awake?" And which you promptly replied. And I think my next message to you was, "Is this forgery?" Because I just didn't want to get too excited.
Right.
But I think looking back deep down, I knew that it had value.
Now,
So
was this the only book you took from the home? Is this the only book you bought?
no, I made a small pile of books up to $50. So this book worked out to be $3.
Okay, hold on. Don't, you're jumping ahead now. You're jumping ahead. So
Yeah.
there's something that you said already
Mm,
that to me that I want to make sure that I highlight for everybody watching this. You said
mm,
that there was a plastic cover on the book and it was very dusty.
mm,
So I think that one thing that we should say to everybody is when there is a Mylar cover, that plastic cover, that means during that lifetime of that book, somewhere along the line, somebody cared about it. They
yeah.
cared about that book. They cared about that dust jacket. And so when I go into an estate sale or I go to a garage sale and I see books in Mylar, that's a tip
Mm,
off that somebody somewhere along the line cared for these books. So you made a good call. You made a good call on that.
yeah, it's a really good point. And I was a bit thrown. I guess that wasn't my first thought because I wasn't that experienced. But it was very tattered. Like even that plastic cover was
Right.
very tattered, and the film that had built up on that. So I guess a lot of people just pass straight.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just,
Including the woman who owned the book. You said she's doing these sales every Saturday. So
so
how many times was this book passed up before you entered into the house? I mean, that's an amazing story.
yeah, and I thought that was an interesting thing to reflect on. That yeah, I don't know how long she's been doing these for, and how long it had just been sitting there for. And
Right. But
obviously, he
you've
would have
been
looked
working,
at that
yeah,
and passed it up.
and you've been working very hard at becoming a very good bookseller. You've been working hard on your eBay store. And I think sometimes when you work hard, that's how we create luck. You
Mm,
recognize something, maybe something we talked about in a meeting, maybe something you just realized Hitchcock was a good thing, and unbelievable.
mm.
What did the book sell for?
So it's sold for 950 Australian dollars, which is about 600 US, just over that. It went to a US buyer, so I sent it back across to you guys. And the gentleman is like a high-end bookseller on eBay.
Okay,
I have checked multiple times whether he has listed it.
relisted.
Not
Mhm.
on there, so I don't know if he's sold it privately or if it's for his own collection. I don't really care. I
Yeah,
got my money
it
out of
shouldn't
it.
matter. Yeah, it shouldn't
Yeah,
matter. You
yeah.
made a phenomenal sale.
Mm.
Um, so have you been back to her house?
I haven't. No, not yet. So, yeah, it usually happens at the time that I can't go due to
Right,
I've got three beautiful boys, so we're quite busy. But yeah,
right.
yeah, I will
But
visit there again.
for me, I'm thinking if there was a Hitchcock signed book in that house,
Mm, mm,
I'd be looking for other books with plastic covers on them next time
mm.
I go.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't recall much in that sort of vein, because I think obviously she has gone through it herself, and she's probably just trying to monetize her what she considers a duds. Yeah, but there's always something that somebody's missed. So
yeah. So
yeah,
three in the 950, you said that's what it was, Australian.
Yeah, Australian. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I remember I've got a note here because I had to look back at our messages, and you said I asked you for some advice, and you said list it for between 500 to 700 US dollars, and I sold it
Mm,
for 600. So you were
wow.
bang on there, Max. Yep,
Wow.
done.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know what I'm talking about. That's amazing. Some people would never
funny
believe
about that.
that.
Yeah, well, it's
Wow.
interesting because you said that, and then you said, or alternatively, you could run it for 9.99 at
Right.
auction and see how it goes. Which I went to our Discord group and asked them what they thought,
Hmm.
and they were so lovely. I had Loretta and who else did I have? Kevin and Corey. Like we were all in on it, and decided to go to auction. Left it until the day before. I had about 7 watches, I think,
Hmm.
and no bids. And I got cold feet, pulled the auction, and um, and then I left it a few days because I don't know, I just left it, and then I relisted it for, this is in Australian dollars, $1,130 Australian
Mhm.
dollars, and shortly after that, like a few hours after that, I got the offer for 950, and I went, I'm done.
Now, now let's rewind.
Time seal
What
delivered.
time did you text me at that night? What time was it? Do you remember
What
when you
when I when I
when you
sold
were
it?
when you first found it?
Yeah, so think um I think it was about 9 p.m. your time because it was about 11 here.
Okay.
So
Ooh,
yeah,
you got under the wire. You just got
I
under the
did. And I was like,
wire.
but I mean, I think I would have purchased it anyway, unless she said,
Right.
oh, look, this book is
Right.
$300. Then I would have been sort of thinking, but I played it, I tried to play it cool and just made my stack. And she said, yeah, $50 for the lot. So I was like, it was a no brainer. I thought that there's got to be some value in this.
Right. And I know you've sold some other expensive books orbiting in your world now. I know that we're going to get to those in another call.
Mm.
But you are doing phenomenal.
Thanks.
and you know how I feel about pushing you and making sure you're doing the right thing. What advice would you give to the people out there who are doing what you do, doing what I do, and
Mm-hmm.
something that you think might help them along the way?
Well, there's lots of advice that you've given us in the group, but one thing that I think is consistently paying off for me is to continually research
Mm.
the market and the niches within the niches within the niches. I also love analyzing. I love to go into an eBay store, particularly local ones like Australian
Mhm.
sellers, particular niche, and then I go through their solds and I do I'll follow them for weeks at a time and just go through daily and be like, oh, what that I've walked past that before, and that's sold for $70, and they've sold that twice for $70 in the past 90 days. Um, so just constantly analyzing that and then expanding upon those niches so that I can actually get more stock,
And what,
know
yeah,
its value.
what you're saying is become familiar with the marketplace, understand what sells on eBay. There's ways to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. But you know, I'm going to say it, you're kicking ass because I know you've had another great sale. You're kicking ass. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody should check you out on Instagram, Tulip Curated. I'll try to add that down there. And
Mm-hmm.
because I know you love selling your art too. You're
Yeah.
definitely into home design and art. So it's awesome. I'm proud to watch you grow as a bookseller, and I can't wait for us to do another call like this in a couple weeks to talk about something else that recently sold.
Yeah, sounds great, Max. Thank you so much for having me and for all of your advice and support.
Thank you. Have a great night. Enjoy Thursday. I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye,
Okay,
Kate.
thanks. Bye.